I'm really hoping today's topic is something that almost all of us can agree on. We're not all ever going to agree on anything, but I think when it comes to neo-pronouns and xeno-pronouns, we can get pretty close as possible to consensus about how realistic these things are. I don't even want to get into it about the singular use of they, them for when you know the person that you're talking about. And I don't want to get into it about em, z, zir, he, here, zir, zir, whatever, like the fe, fi, fo, fum ones. I'm not even going to discuss those. What I want to talk about is the neo-pronoun situation, for starters, where people are coming up with their own bespoke pronouns. And there's this chick on TikTok who has made about 1,000 videos about neo-pronouns. I think people request from her that she makes pronoun videos using their little bespoke pronouns, so that probably each one of these is like one person in the world who wants these pronouns used for them. And so then she makes a video using their pronouns.
Today's pronouns of the day are hither, thither, and slip. Today's pronoun of the day is forest, forest. So you had to use Grimace's pronouns in a phone conversation.
And then, I don't know, they masturbate while someone actually uses their pronouns for once, the way that they want them to. But here's the thing. Let's leave aside how you feel about em, ears, z's, zers, ears, all of that kind of stuff. At least they are one syllable long. Because what a pronoun does is replaces a proper name. And it's not really convenient if you're adding syllables. Someone's name could be Bob, but now they want to be called rainforest. That's not what a pronoun does. We can go from Gregory to he, going from Bob to rainforest. No, we can go from Bob to E, Bob to Zir, but we're not going from Bob to silly either. When your neo-pronouns have more than one syllable, you're just giving yourself a nickname.
Can you believe that Sage called us selfish for not using Grimace's pronouns correctly? Yeah, I mean, it's not like we intentionally tried to offend Grimace.
And the rest of us all agreed sometime in middle school that you don't get to give yourself a nickname. Other people give you nicknames if you're going to get a nickname, or you gotta earn it, you gotta prove it, they're just not something that you can force everyone to call you. Now, you can choose your name. I'm all about that. Legally or not, you can choose whatever name you want people to have you address you as, and people should respect that, but you can't come up with pronouns. So maybe, someone's parents named them Alex, and they decided that completely open box was too confining for them gender-wise, and so they decided to call themselves Kangaroo. Okay, fine. Kangaroo. Some of your friends are going to call you that. Hopefully most people are going to call you that if that's what you want your name to be. But if then you go and say, oh, I'm Kangaroo and I go by mystic pronouns, mystic self pronouns, well, we're not going to do that. Now, you can't just give yourself... Do you see how that's just giving yourself a nickname? Pronouns, first of all, it shouldn't be this laundry list of all these options. None of them mean anything at this point anyway. If you're listening to if we're going by that everyone gets to pick their own pronouns and it has something to do with something internal that only you have access to and is basically ineffable anyway, that's already a huge ask, because pronouns have been functioning in English for a long, long time as saying, whether it's a man or a woman, a boy or a girl, male or female. And if we want to go, even if it's like she, he, they, but everyone chooses their own, much less once you add E and Z and Zir and all that kind of stuff, well, now the pronouns literally are meaningless. But okay, if that's what we're going for, we don't want to encode any information in pronouns, which, by the way, in other languages, pronouns might encode whether they're older than you or younger than you, or older than your father or younger than your father, or whether someone's married or unmarried, or all kinds of different things can be information that's put in pronouns. But the kids these days want these pronouns to not actually speak to anything, or at least not anything you could be sure of. Because they could mean one thing to someone, it could mean one thing to another person, it could mean one thing to someone today and mean something else to them tomorrow, and that's also valid. I put the word valid in quotes, by the way, because that's one of these words that bothers me in the progressive, queer, whatever world, because I don't really understand what valid actually means. And I've gotten into this conversation with people a few times online, and no one ever actually has a good definition for what we mean by valid. You know, their whole morality is just be kind, and they can never see that there are ever any unforeseen, you know, there are any unintended consequences or ever any effects on anybody else for whatever they think is being nice to them, but that's a whole nother subject. But so that's my issue with this. Once you're picking pronouns that are 2, 3, 4 syllables, oftentimes they are nouns. Oftentimes, you know, people want to be called river self or something like that, and you know, you're already calling yourself rain, and now your pronouns are river. It's too much. It's too much. No one's going to remember it. No one's going to ask it. No one wants to add extra syllables for your pronouns. You don't get to choose your own nickname. You already get to choose your own name, and that's something that we should all respect. You know, everyone should get to choose their own name. Legally, at some point, you get to choose your own name. It's a hassle to change it legally, but you can. I know I have. So that's fine. But you don't then get to also, because the thing is, like, it's unending. One of the problems, other than the annoyance and inconvenience of all of this, is that not only are trolls going to take advantage of it, and mentally ill autistic people and everybody else, but if you say that we then have to use your pronouns, whether that's people want it to be legally compelled speech, whether that's, you know, you're going to become a social pariah, you're going to lose your job, all of those ways. If we're going to compel that people have to use whatever you say your pronouns are, then we're going to all, not only are we all going to have to remember Lisa gave these pronouns to Rainbow Self, as in Lisa gave these pronouns to herself. Not only are we going to have to do that, but someone could decide that their pronouns are supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious self. Again, whether that's trolls, today I'm going to show you how to use the very popular kiss my ass pronouns.
Well, I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
My pronouns are kiss my.
Kiss isn't really being funny, but rather pandering for clapter. Let's not make fun of my for doing that, even if Kiss makes fun of Hannah Gatsby for doing the same thing. Remember, you still need to respect my pronouns, even if you aren't a fan of ass. So let's respect everyone. Don't forget, neo-pronoun users are people, if they identify as people, if kisses identify as people. It might seem difficult to use these neo-pronouns, but remember, there's no harm in trying to help someone feel validated in their identity. I mean, in my identity. Crazy people, or absolutely sincere, well, they'll still be crazy. If you're absolutely sincere about those being your pronouns, you're crazy. But that is an option. And I'm sure that if you sent it to Curly Hair, that she would make you a video of it and say that it's absolutely valid, and that anyone who doesn't think so is, you know, hateful. So, that's that. I'm not a big fan of Zism stuff. X's and Z's sound either like Scientology, kind of like some kind of LARPy thing, like a dorky, like it's too geeky for most of us. At best it sounds German, and we're all still a little German negative because of, you know, some of the stuff that happened, although a lot of people are moving on from that in today's world. I think Germans are in and Jews are out now, so that's a whole different subject, and we're not here to discuss that. But point being, Zism sounds dorky as fuck to most people, and we just don't want to do it. It really feels most of the time like if you're calling yourself one of these bespoke pronouns, almost everybody who does it is socially retarded. And so that's kind of the vibe. And you guys in your own little circles can do that. But you're never going to get invited to, and no one's going to hire you. You think they, them, theirs aren't getting hired? Try putting Z here on your app. But that's the thing, a lot of these people don't want to get hired. And then if they don't get hired, then they can be like, oh, look, I am the victim that I claim to be. So If anybody really sincerely likes some of these neo-pronouns and you want to tell me why you love them, they're important to you, and why you're not being a geeky, obnoxious victim, please do let me know. And again, this is not at all to get into the they, them, their as a singular pronoun for someone that you know who you're talking about argument, because that one I have a lot of mixed feelings about, and I'm not really wanting to wade into that. I think it remains to be seen whether that one like really takes off as in the culture, or whether that one is going to fade away. And it just, I still am left with this issue of, yeah, but they don't mean anything at this point. So we're all, truthfully, if these pronouns don't mean anything, if they're not encoding anything about either our sex or our relationship to the speaker or anything like that, like again, like some people, there are pronouns for whether someone's like in your family or extended family or not. Like different languages have different things they encode in pronouns, but at this point you're not encoding any information, any reliable information. It doesn't necessarily mean anything. Some people go by he, him, and they're female and do everything completely femininely. You know, that everything's stereotypically feminine in our culture, and I've seen that, and I've seen vice versa. I've seen they, thems who seem just like any other he, him, they, thems who seem just like any other she, her. I've seen every different combination, and same is true for these neo-pronouns. So there's no information in them. So to me, at this point, if you were even changing your pronouns at all, you're just giving yourself a nickname already, unless you have transitioned to the extent of changing your hormone profile, much less whatever else that you can do externally to get people to see you as the opposite sex, because you feel much more fulfilled living as much as possible as the opposite sex. Short of that, giving yourself pronouns for fun, well, they're now meaningless, and they're just a little nickname game that you're playing. And I think it's pretty douchey to tell other people what your nickname is. Maybe that's old-fashioned of me. I don't think you should really get to do that too much. Again, you want to change your name, you get one. You get to change your name. You get to tell us what you'd like your name to be. And if you want to pick a nicknamey name for yourself, great. But then we need to still be able to use pronouns. Because what if someone chooses the name for themselves, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious? We're going to start only using their pronouns. We're very rarely going to use that name they chose for themselves, but they get to. That's everyone's right. In my opinion, everyone's right to choose whatever name. Names can be bespoke as fuck. But if you choose a super long one, we're going to be calling you he, she, or they, or something like that. Something one syllable we're going to be using to refer to you 99% of the time. Now the xeno pronoun thing, like this is something that we covered when I used to do the Gender Fluids podcast, that we would, at the end of every episode for the last year or two of that podcast, we would like go to the gender wiki and just kind of go through and like make fun of all the new identities that people were adding to there. And half the time we would start by making fun of them, and ultimately I wind up being like, well, I do identify as that though, that is me too. But xeno pronouns were this one where we were just like, come on. It was me and a trans chick who, both have a good sense of humor, and we were just reading the xeno pronoun thing like, come on, this is the most self-indulgent thing. I mean, here, let's take it from everyone's favorite Jeffrey March about what a xeno pronoun is.
Pronouns, xeno pronouns, neo pronouns. What's happening here? What is this? Xeno pronouns. Perhaps one of the most beautiful concepts, one of the most poetic ways to approach this subject. Xeno pronouns refers to any pronoun a person has that is unspeakable, that is unworkable in the language of a person. So an example would be a xeno pronoun would be a word, I can't even say it, right? Because that's the point. They're unsayable and sort of effervescent and unknowable, kind of like a person's gender. That's why I love this one. So an example would be, a xeno pronoun would contain a set of letters that is a pronunciation that a human being can't pronounce. It's some sound that a human being can't pronounce. or that a xeno pronoun contains an image or a concept that it's alluding to that is actually something that language has no way to express. The movement of understanding where non-binary people come from can sometimes take us into very lofty, beautiful, spiritual, poetic places.
They could be pronouns whose meaning cannot be translated into any human language. Pronouns expressed through a form of communication that humans cannot understand due to its being extraterrestrial. I mean, basically these people are deciding that they're aliens or something, or they're too smart for us, they're too complicated and ineffable, you know, they're such mysterious extraterrestrial kind of beings that none of us simple humans wouldn't be able to even speak their pronouns. Technically, I think Yahweh could be a xeno pronoun for people, since, right, Jewish people aren't supposed to say Yahweh, right? That would be a fun one. Or a picture of Muhammad could be your pronouns. Because a lot of people are doing these emojis for their neo-pronouns. Usually, you know, that's typically just an online thing, so you don't have to say, I gave the book to Peach Emoji. Peach Emoji gave these neo-pronouns to Peach Emoji self. You would just, it's only when you're online that you're using the peach as their pronoun, the peach emoji as their pronoun. But yeah, that would be an interesting one. If anyone wants to get themselves killed, just and be a real martyr to the xeno pronoun cause, just draw a little picture of Muhammad, slash another little picture of Muhammad, slash another little picture that says of Muhammad and then self after it, and declare those your pronouns. Okay, look, I don't know what's wrong with Jeffrey Marsh, by the way. I don't know whether he's actually a pedophile or just kind of a weird grifter type, you know, like he just is trying to make money off the, I know he obviously really enjoys the makeup and stuff. I think, like most of us, he is a self-indulgent narcissist and, you know, just enjoys making content and interacting with people. But he does have this Patreon. I mean, you know, he's making money off of, which I want to too one day. So no shade to that, but he does seem like about the creepiest, weirdest person I've ever, you know, encountered, and the way that he talks about stuff seems so affected. And I just don't, it's very hard for me to wrap my mind around him truly, like, being a sincere and not, I mean, he seems like, if anybody really likes Jeffrey Marsh, please explain it to me. That's one I cannot wrap my mind around.